Hello, welcome to This Week in Tech. I started recording, so that's why I'm actually doing this over again. So let's just do it. Usually I have people type in chat. I'll do it later if you want to. At any point, ask questions. But let's get right into the news. Okay, so Animal Crossing. I know a bunch of people are playing it. It's like destroyed a bunch of records for the Switch. People are finding all kinds of fun things to do in Animal Crossing. Uh, this one person is bell farming. Um, she's created a really good system to farm millions and millions of bells. And the way she's doing it is a lot of like turnips and then time traveling, which a lot of people I've played Animal Crossing before. I'm somewhat familiar with the concept of time traveling. I don't remember every little bit of it, but I think it used to be like actually internally setting the clock of your device back and forward. Um, but basically you can like invest something and then over time it'll accrue interest. Yeah, okay. It still is that kind of same basic concept, but it'll accrue interest, and then you can. It's like the stock market, but you can time travel like 20 years or whatever, and you can get all that money, all those bells, and so this person is farming bells in her game so that you can buy them off of her. So selling 2 million bells for $5, and that's like the basic pricing, but she's made so far, she said she's made enough for um, a two-bedroom apartment in New York because that's what she got laid off from her job, and she has a two-bedroom apartment with a roommate, and so she's been able to make rent for at least a month in the month that she's been doing it, but she won't say the full amount. But yeah, people are doing that. She's not the only one. There's no way in the game to sell things for real currency, but you can give people bells, and so she'll be like, okay, so we'll set up a Venmo, like have a Venmo account, PayPal, Cash App, and then after the bells are delivered, you pay. So yeah, this has been happening forever. I mean, like World of Warcraft, even before then, Rune, I think, RuneScape has people farming different currency. Um, most like RPGs, like online RPGs, have been doing this for a long time. This is the first time it's been with like Animal Crossing, or at least to a big extent. Usually, Animal Crossing is like this really relaxing game, and like people who are doing this are obviously doing the opposite. But other things that people are doing in Animal Crossing, because Animal Crossing, a big part of it is like your neighbors and community. Uh, and like friendships within your community. And that's something we can't really do too much right now. So people are taking advantage of the ability in Animal Crossing, or different abilities in Animal Crossing, like creating art. So they have like art galleries that they've set up, and people make art in the game and then create art galleries, or like even landscape architecture, outside art. So people are creating these big galleries and then having people come in and check out the art that they've created. And another thing is like fashion trends. Don't hate me because I'm virtual. Uh, Hello, Zachy. Nice to see you, man. So yeah, we have fashion shows in Animal Crossing. This is what people are doing right now. We can't do anything else. So you've missed Animal Crossing, making money off of it by farming a bunch of bells, and then Animal Crossing art shows. This is, I'm yeah, that's what people are doing in Animal Crossing right now, because they can't go outside. What was that? If you have Animal Crossing, yeah, I mean, there's you can use the art generation tool to make art. This is not really this is more of a showcase of that. You can create art. You can set up your town or whatever, and hand codes out. There's like a bunch of places that'll show you, or like where people can share their art. Yeah, and actually, yeah, Sean said that you saw some guy make Hyrule. There's a bunch of really cool things that I've seen in this new Animal Crossing. I think this is the first one that lets you create this many, like all these custom designs, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's kind of everywhere. People are making some really cool art. Hmm? Yeah, mine was New Leaf, I think, which is 3DS, whatever the 3DS one is. Yeah. Oh yeah, Onet from Earthbound on it. I can't remember how to pronounce it. All right, so Tesla. Um, in your Tesla is like this big infotainment thing. You can use it while you're driving. If you have autopilot on, you can play games on it. I don't know if you've been following Elon Musk and his current controversies, but to kind of make up for that, he was like, "What if Minecraft was on the in Tesla? So like maybe make that happen." Um, Minecraft. But another thing is that someone who buys used units, so like it's a unit that powers this module. Every once in a while, they'll go bad, or they'll need to be updated to a newer model that'll help improve like autopilot, those sort of things. Um, the people will take them out and they won't give them back to Tesla. They'll sell them on eBay because people like to look through them and see how Tesla works. This guy has bought 13 different Tesla MCUs. That's what they're called, MCUs. And he's found that even if, and usually this is what happens, they do a factory reset so that supposedly all your information that you had when you were driving that Tesla um, would be wiped off the device. But he's found that he can still find everything. He can still find like your Netflix account, your Spotify, your calendar entries, call logs, device location, even. He knows exactly where these devices were shut down because all the way to the very end, it showed the location of the device. So he's doing it because he was interested in how Tesla's worked, and this is just kind of what he does for a living. And this is a hobby on the side. Um, but yeah, he's found that every single one of these, even through a factory reset, you can connect Spotify to a car. You don't even have to have a Tesla for that. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of cars that can do Spotify. But yeah, so what? Yeah, you can do connection to your phone. Some of them do have Spotify. Honestly, I think my car does, but I don't ever use that because it's spotty at best. Yeah, you have to be able to do that for yeah, you've been able to do it for a long time. All right, so California. This is tech-ish related. So Uber and Lyft, drivers are technically not employees of Uber and Lyft. You download Uber or Lyft on your phone at like the driving app. You like sign up. You have to answer some questions. I don't know the full process, and then right away you can start driving for Uber and Lyft. You're technically not an employee. You're using their like software platform. Um, California is saying no, you should make these people your employees because these people are working and they don't have basic labor rights. Like they don't have paid sick leave. They don't they don't have to make minimum wage there's no minimum wage protections. Overtime pay is non-existent. If they have to make expenses for it, there's no reimbursements for that. No benefits at all. And so they're saying that people are making a living off of this and that you need to make them actual employees and give them benefits. Do they have to pay income tax? I don't. I would assume, yeah, probably, because it is technically income. And if Uber wants to be able to claim that as income tax, um, and I'm sure they do, then it has to come from somebody. So they have to claim that they gave this money to people. So yeah, I'm assuming they probably do. I don't know what that is. It's maybe a 1099 because it's like a contract. I'm not sure. Um, but that's a good question. But anyway, so this is a back and forth. Uber is saying we're not employing drivers. We are giving people an opportunity to make money, which makes sense to me. But also, I agree that they have no protections um, through this. I mean, people are signing up for it, and they aren't always aware of what they're signing up for. They don't get like mileage reimbursements, anything like that. In fact, like you have a lot of people don't take that into account. If you drive Uber and Lyft, you're not making a lot of money because you have to pay for the upkeep on your car. If anything was to go wrong, if you miss time, um, it's kind of a dodgy business. And I think what California is trying to do is making sure that this doesn't become the norm for a lot of businesses, like especially tech. They'll hire a bunch of contractors and they'll let them go, and they won't give them any benefits. And now more and more businesses are like, oh, it's cheaper to hire these contractors. Um, yeah, you're losing more than you're making for Uber and Lyft. A lot of times, yeah. I mean, or like at least you're not making a lot if at the end of the day, if you look into how much you spent on driving Lyft and Uber, you're making like minimum wage or below. Um, for the most part, unless you're really smart about it or in a good area. Um, but yeah, so they don't want this to become the norm. It makes sense. The contract economy or the gig economy are kind of becoming a huge thing. There aren't as many full-time workers anymore. It's more moving toward less worker protection. And I think this is just a move by California to kind of ensure that that's still around. But I also understand Uber and Lyft's point of view. Like we're just trying to help people make a buck. And like it's up to them if they want to do it, and they can leave or they can stop when they want. They make their own hours, that sort of thing. But if they do have problems, and California wins this, then like chances are you can only drive Lyft, 40 hours a week or something, because we're not going to pay you overtime, or um, fewer people can be Uber drivers or Lyft drivers in the same area, so that they won't have to pay for a bunch of people in that area. There you go. So, World is it Worldwide Developer? I can't remember. Worldwide Developers Conference. That's right. So Apple, that's their big conference, and it's actually coming up. It's June 22nd this year. It's later than normal, and it's all virtual. Anybody who is a an Apple developer can attend. So like most people, most of my students probably can't attend because you're probably not developing for Apple. You're probably not an active Apple developer. Um, but I mean, there might be one or two of you that might. Wouldn't want to be. There you go. So it'll be all virtual, and it's usually pretty big. There's probably going to be some interesting announcements. I will say one thing though, they are opening up a there's a where is it? A challenge or a Swift Playgrounds. Yeah, okay. It's a challenge to students. Um, Apple's iPad and Mac app. So using Swift Playgrounds. Swift is a coding language. Specifically, I think it's made by Apple or it's just made specifically for Apple. Um, and it actually, like, I don't have a lot of experience with Swift. I've a little bit. I've played around with it. It's pretty easy to learn, but especially if you already know another coding language. But they're doing a big event where students have through May 17th to submit projects. So if you're interested, you want to learn Swift, it is the main coding language for iOS and Macintosh operating systems. Like, could be a good opportunity to do that and to just be a part of that. If you like coding at all, it's good to be in these competitions as much as you can be. It helps you learn really quickly. It helps you work under pressure. I That's the end of school, so I don't May 17th, so you might be pretty busy. I don't know. Yeah, okay, there it is Apple. I thought it was, I just wasn't sure if it was made specifically or if it was made by them. But yeah, Swift is made by Apple. So there you go. That's happening. We're going to hear more about Apple stuff June 22nd in summer. So, we talked about the Apple and Google, like they're not really, they're helping make the app or apps. Um, but what this will look like, this contact tracing app or series of apps. And so this is kind of what it's going to look like is when you're setting it up, you're enabling exposure notifications, um, logging notifications, that sort of thing. If you share your positive test result, you can do that. Um, You can notify others. You can find so like basically what it does when it notifies others, it says the date that you were in contact with someone who's tested positive. Um, it says the general duration that you were around them, and if you want it to, it'll say the signal strength of like the connection, which basically means like how close were they to you? Were they really close for 20 minutes, or were they, within 100 yards? I don't know how far the Bluetooth connections are. That's probably a little long, but like 100 feet for like a minute. So like if you might not worry as much about that. Um, but you're sharing random IDs. We talked about some of this. I'm just kind of going through really quickly. Um, it'll differ depending on the country. So like actual copy to be provided by public health authority. So us would probably be CDC, but I don't know for a fact. They'll give like actual like here's what to do now. Um, but here's what it'll look like if someone you were near has tested positive for COVID-19. It'll even like I think they're exploring the capability of like, hey, you were exposed, you haven't tested positive, but we can send notifications to everyone that you were near too, saying you were near somebody who was near somebody who had it, who tested positive. Um, but yeah, so like this is some of the information that they'll show you. So what does this all mean? Uh, a lot of health experts are saying that this is a really great way to track who has this. It is a tool. It is not the tool. Um, People are somewhat worried about privacy concerns, but like most of the measures put in place are pretty good. 100 meters to less than 10 meters. Yeah, so it super depends on Bluetooth can go about 100 meters at max. Where are people still going outside? Some people have to go outside. Some people have to work. Um, some people going to the store, like you can't. I mean, delivery charges are like $10 each, which doesn't sound like too terrible until you have to do it a lot and you don't make a ton of money. But yeah, I mean, people got to work, people got to eat, that sort of thing. You want to limit it as much as you can. That's definitely what I'm doing, but not everybody can do that. So, but a lot of people, even like privacy advocates, are saying that there's a lot of things that they're doing right, but there's always like if you open up Bluetooth on your phone, which a lot of us probably already do, that creates a hole for people to get into your phone. It's a back door. There are a lot of small children on bikes nowadays. Yeah, I will say, people across the street from me had like a party yesterday. And I was like, what are you doing? There are like 30 kids just hanging out in their front yard. Like, it's not a big front yard. And then, like, in the street and stuff. And I'm like, you guys are all right next to each other. So that's fun. Uh, people, you can't rely on people. Let's just say that. You never know. Um, but yeah, so obviously there's privacy concerns with this, but it seems like they're doing as much as they can, and they're taking time to get it as right as they possibly can before implementing it fully. I don't know. That shows you kind of what it looks like if you weren't sure before. Yeah, respectable distance out of the park. That's fine. I walk. There's like a nice place to walk near my house. I go there most of the time. There's not a lot of other people. Usually only like a few other people, and they're like way like 100 yards away. They're fine. All right, so New York Times. Um, so back when net neutrality was repealed, um, basically FCC, before they got rid of net neutrality, they were like, let's give a public forum for people to share what they feel about net neutrality. And there were a lot of comments that were like, net neutrality is bad. Let's get rid of it. Go FCC. Um, and a lot of them seemed really similar, or some like broken English, or there was just some fishiness to it. So New York Times, a long time ago, made a FOIA request, which is Freedom of Information Act. Freedom of Information Act is basically like any um, any news organization, actually anybody really, can file a request to have access to information from the government. And the government processes this, and then they pretty much have to give that information out unless it is classified. So New York Times was like, we want to see, because we are a news organization, we want to see IP addresses, information, like the basic information that they gathered from these people, not like actual like identifying remarks. The IP addresses were going to the New York Times, and not like some random person. So FCC was basically like, no, you don't get that, privacy concerns. Other people, yes. Well, I would assume that's one thing they can't give out unless there's a really, really great reason for it. Other people's social security numbers classified. I actually don't know. Um, but basically, the FCC was like, there's privacy concerns. We're not going to give you that information. Because the reason they did this is because there was a lot of people thinking that, like, this had a lot of Russian influence. Like, a lot of Russian bots or Russian people, like users, were making a bunch of user accounts, being paid to make positive comments for the repeal of net neutrality. And so a judge just said that the New York Times wins and that the FCC should give over uh, this information so they can see where all these comments came from. Because a lot of people are thinking that this was disingenuous and the FCC or someone paid for these comments to be there. This could be appealed, but hopefully, hopefully this means that we'll get some interesting info about who commented in the first place. Yeah. Because most people didn't want to get rid of net neutrality. Let's just be honest here. Hello, Abdullah. Good to see you, man. All right. So, did he did he just come in and leave immediately? That's funny. Anyway, oh no, you're here. Okay. Oh no, you're still there. Never mind. So I heard someone go. All right. So let's see. Algorithms recognize your masked face. So they're working on it. Um, a lot of facial recognition software. There's actually some, we talked about it last week with like truckers and technology that face tracks, make sure you're awake and that you're not driving too long or whatever, those sorts of things. But now we're seeing a lot more apps working to get past this face mask and be able to see people's faces still. So there are some companies that are doing it really well. We saw like a couple weeks ago, someone had already kind of figured it out. Or like in China, they had already been able to do it with a lot of accuracy, and a lot of different tech companies are working on it right now, including Apple. So your Face ID doesn't work if you have a mask on. Sometimes it doesn't know. It's not great. Um, so right now they're working on improving that. But in the short term, they found a quick solution because if you're out and about, if you want to use like Apple Pay or something, you don't want to hand your credit card to someone right now, because then they're touching your credit card. So like Apple Pay, Android Wallet or whatever, I forget what Google's version is. Um, those are pretty good alternatives for a lot of people right now. But in order to do that, you have to unlock your phone, and you're out in public. You kind of don't want to touch your phone a bunch, and you don't want to take off your mask for Face ID. Right now, you have to hold your phone up and wait for Face ID to fail in order to input your password. But now they're just making it really quick. Like you can swipe up and you can go straight to your passwords. You don't need your if Face ID isn't working, you can just put in your password real quick. So that's a quick solution. Hopefully, other companies do something similar. But yeah, there you go. Okay, so Microsoft, they're doing well apparently, and a lot of that is some of their new strategies with Xbox, who's doing very well. For a while there, they were kind of trailing, and then they started really having like an open source kind of mentality to development. So like now, if you own an Xbox game, you can play it on your PC if you have a powerful PC. So like, and a lot of cross compatibility. They're just being like, hey, we're cool. We don't have exclusives anymore. No more exclusives for the Xbox. We want to be open so that we're an option for you. And it seems to be actually paying off pretty well for them. That and Microsoft Azure are doing super well for Microsoft. They're really they're seeing huge growth, 59% year over year from Azure. If you don't know what Azure is, it's basically their cloud computing platform. And I haven't really used it too much. I've been playing around with it this week, but from what I've heard, because actually there's another teacher at Butler Tech who used to work. He used to be a contractor that worked with Azure all the time. It's really good. So if you ever wanted to get into the back end development side of things, just to let you know, I'm pretty sure I have it. If you use your Butler Tech email account and log into Microsoft, I think you guys have access to Azure. It's free, but like there's more development tools. Um, and I don't know if they have all like the educational part. So like there's free training and like educational modules. If you want to learn Azure, you can do it um, through your Butler Tech account. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it might be free and you can use your personal email account too. But just throwing that your way. If you want to mess around with Azure, it's huge. It's growing like crazy right now, and probably in a few years when you guys are entering the job market, knowledge on how Azure works, if you want to do any sort of back end development, uh, probably pretty nice. Just saying. So there you go. This isn't super tech related, but I figured I have some 16-year-olds in here or 15-and-a-half-year-olds that are probably like, hey, so like I have to take a driver's test at some point. But how am I going to do that? Like I have to get into a car with somebody, which is, in like few months may not be as big a deal, or it could be worse. We have no idea. Georgia is ditching the road test for now. You already have a car. There you go. Well, I'm talking about like getting your license. So you don't have to take the test. You don't have to drive in a car with a person that's certified to like test you on your driving ability. You just have to do your in-car hours. Or like this is Georgia. I don't know if they have any other things. Um, so it's probably great news for people who are learning to drive because they're like, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was going to have to wait several more months. Um, and this is Georgia, but it might become, I mean, if Georgia did it, maybe other places will start doing it. I don't know. Um, so it makes me worry a little bit because I did in cars, and at the end of the in car, we like drove to the next person's house, and then they drove you home. And I definitely saw my life flash by my eyes once or twice when someone was driving me home. So there's some bad drivers out there. Yeah, it's a little risky. I don't know, and it's not in Ohio yet. We'll see if it does. I don't want to die. Yeah, that's true. No. Yeah, it's a little scary, but we're supposed to be staying home anyway, so it's fine. Actually go out and get your temps if you don't already have them. I don't know. I would assume if you can get your driver's license uh, without making the actual test, I'm sure you can go like online and get your temps. I don't know. Anyway, last story this week. Sony Last of Us Part 2, like the whole story leaked. I don't know if anybody saw that. Please don't post spoilers. I will ban I will kick at least for a little while. People who post spoilers. Yep, I will do it. What? Then you tell them, nope, Mr. Box said no spoilers. I mean, I don't care. It's the rule now. Yeah, DM. There you go. I'm fine with that. If you want to DM somebody and give them spoilers, uh, you know, only if they ask for them. Yeah, or I mean, people that don't care about Last of Us 2, that's fine too. Um, but anyway, so apparently these leaks did not come from anybody who is affiliated with Naughty Dog or Sony Interactive Entertainment. So this is someone outside of Sony completely who did this, and they're not giving any more information because they know that the the primary individual is responsible, but they're still doing an investigation to see if anybody else was involved. So apparently they know who did it. We don't know who did it yet, though. Don't leak huge sensitive information. There's a difference between this leak and like the Pixel 4a leaking, because you know the Pixel 4a leaked, probably intentionally. That's what usually happens. The full story of a game leaking, usually that's not intentional. They could have played it off as a lie. That's true. Been like, nope, that's not what happens. You got to play the game to find out what happens, and then people find out that it's exactly what happens. But I guess you're right. They could have played that off. Anyway, that is all the stories that I have. Um, yeah, I tried to make it relatively quick. I'm trying to like cut out some of the super not interesting parts of this. Um, I'm gonna stay on here on Discord for a little bit longer, but I just want to say before I stop recording, for like the people who are tuning in later, seniors, this is your last week. I said it at the beginning. I don't think I was recording at the time. It's your last week. Um, that you have to do things. Next week, if I post stuff, if you want to do it, you can. It won't affect your grade negatively. If you want to do it and you want to up your grade a little bit, I will basically count it as like an extra credit. Um, if not, if you don't want to do it, you'll be excused from it. Sorry that you didn't get to go back to school. I know some of you are probably enjoying this, but I know a lot of you probably hate it as well. It's super unfortunate. Uh, I don't know, like this was my first year teaching, and everyone really helped a lot. But there's a lot of seniors there who I asked questions to because you guys have had a few years of experience in high school, and you guys helped me out a ton. So I just want to say thank you for that. Um, I'm gonna miss you guys. Hopefully, if you ever visit in the future, absolutely you can stop by my room. I want to see you. Um, you don't have to like make sure I'm okay. Like it's okay first. Come on by. I might be busy doing something, but I'll definitely make sure I, you know, talk to you and say hey. And so, yeah, I just want to thank you guys again. Um, Last week you have to do stuff. You don't have to do anything next week. So I'm gonna stop recording here. See ya.